Chapter 12. Vegetarianism. You need to know that the meat supply is increasingly diseased and infectious. Despite the lies you are being fed by the media, meat producers are losing control over the spread of mad cow syndrome, which has moved out of the restricted areas and crossed international borders, spreading from species to species, from cows to sheep and pigs. What is not infected carries growth hormones, enormous quantities of antibiotics, and adrenal overloads, and has been fed with genetically modified feed, also treated with toxic pesticides. It is fear manifest, for every cell of the dying animal is filled with the terror of the slaughter, and you ingest this emotion. This is a quote by Patricia Corey. One question occasionally arises, and that is whether we are meant to eat meat here. Personally, I was brought up by my parents to be vegetarian and have never eaten meat, although I used to eat fish until the age of around 13 years. At that stage I began to think more for myself, and I classed fish as being another living creature upon this planet, and therefore decided to stop eating them. This coincided with getting a black and white portable television for my birthday, and I remember watching documentaries about whaling and the processes involved in slaughtering animals for food. Both programs made me cry, as I couldn't believe the horrors that I was witnessing. Looking back, I realized that if my parents hadn't dictated that I was to be vegetarian from birth, then I certainly would have stopped eating meat and become one. Personally, I believe that animals were put upon this planet in order to help and teach humans, but were bred in order to be eaten and to make money and to trade. According to cardiologist William C. Roberts from Texas, he says that humans aren't physiologically designed to eat meat. I think the evidence is pretty clear. If you look at various characteristics of carnivores versus herbivores, it doesn't take a genius to see where humans line up, says Roberts, editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Cardiology. He cites the carnivore's short intestinal tract, which reaches around 3 times its body length. A herbivore's intestines are 12 times its body length, and humans are closer to herbivores. Human beings and herbivorous animals have little mouths in relation to their head sizes. Unlike carnivores, whose big mouths are all the better for seizing, killing and dismembering prey, argues nutrition specialist Dr. Milton R. Mills, Associate Director of Preventative Medicine for the Washington, D.C.-based Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine (PCRM). People and herbivores extensively chew their food, whereas swallowing food whole is the preferred method of carnivores, he says. Dr. Neil E. Barnard, PCRM's founder and president, says that humans lack the raw abilities to be good hunters. We are not quick like cats, hawks or other predators. It was not until the advent of arrowheads, hatchets and other implements that killing and capturing prey became possible. Milk, another animal product, can also cause issues for people. Virginia Messina, vegetarian dietitian and author who fields questions at www.vegrd.com, says dairy foods are definitely not a natural part of our diet. We only started consuming them about 10,000 years ago, which is very recent in our evolution. Our physiology suggests that we really did not evolve to consume dairy beyond our early childhood. 3 out of 10 adults are lactose intolerant, meaning that they cannot digest the sugar in milk and therefore suffer gas or diarrhea when undigested lactose reaches the intestine. According to Dr. Walter Willett of the Harvard School of Public Health, believes that milk's high protein actually could leach calcium from bones. Drinking cow's milk has been linked to iron deficiency anemia in infants and children. It has been named as the cause of cramps and diarrhea in much of the world's population, and the cause of multiple forms of allergies as well. The possibility has been raised that it may play a central role in the origins of atherosclerosis and heart attacks, writes Dr. Frank Oski, former director of the Johns Hopkins University Department of Pediatrics. As an argument against our bodies being designed to be vegetarian, some may argue that our ancestry dictates that we have always eaten meat for thousands of years, but on the other hand we no longer live in caves and need to build fires either. Personally, I believe that there is a link between eating meat and diseases. For example, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in America according to the American Heart Association. A study found that people who eat meat have a 50% higher risk of developing heart disease compared to vegetarians. Cancer rates, found in numerous studies, are also affected by the consumption of meat. An 11-year study in Germany with 800 vegetarian men found that their cancer rates were less than half of those of the general public. Another study shows that vegetarians have 40% the cancer rates of meat eaters. The American Dietetic Association says that vegetarians have lower rates of death from ischemic heart disease, lower blood cholesterol levels, lower blood pressure and lower rates of hypertension, type 2 diabetes and prostate and colon cancer. I wonder if eating meat can be the new cigarette. Now we get to the point of nutrition. When I meet a person for the first time and if I am offered food, they are usually surprised when I tell them that I am vegetarian. Usually their initial reaction of surprise is because I'm not skinny and look pasty pale. I am almost 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered with a strong physique and slightly tanned. I am so used to this stereotypical reaction now, but it still makes me smile. The idea that plants don't have protein, minerals, vitamins etc. is laughable. In a New York Times article, Mark Bittman points out that plants have protein too. In fact, per calorie, many plants have more protein than meat. Dietitians point out that you should eat more fruit and vegetables. Possibly, vegetables have more of a variety of vitamins and minerals and fiber that meat does not. And do I think that we have the correct type of teeth to eat meat? No, I do not. Even though we have canine front teeth, we don't usually eat with them as we use our molars at the back to tear and chew our food. The slaughterhouses and factory-farmed meat industry tell us that beef is a nutritional powerhouse with the essential nutrients needed for energy. Big lie. They tell us that meat is one of the best sources of iron and packed with vitamins and also part of a heart-healthy diet to manage cholesterol. Whopper of a lie. Outlandish claims. And how often are we told what additives actually go into the meat? What preservatives are permitted after the slaughter of innocent animals? What man-made chemicals are used to inhibit the growth of bacteria or enhance the color of the meat? How is the meat's shelf life prolonged? Synthetic preservatives are added to 70% of all factory-farmed meat and poultry to prevent spoilage and mold growth. The FSIS has amended regulations that once banned the use of sodium benzoate, sodium propionate and benzoic acid in meat and poultry products, the Food and Drug Administration announced. In combination with ascorbic acid, vitamin C, E300, these form known carcinogens. If a person happens to consume any of these toxins after consuming ascorbic acid, a carcinogenic process may initiate. Professor Peter Piper, a professor of molecular biology and biotechnology, tested the impact of sodium benzoate on living yeast cells in his laboratory, and what he found alarmed him, as the benzoate was damaging an important area of DNA in the power station of cells known as the mitochondria. These chemicals have the ability to cause severe damage to DNA in the mitochondria to the point that they totally inactivate it, they knock it out altogether, he stated. These 3 preservatives had been on the list of prohibited antimicrobial substances that the FSIS considered to have the potential to conceal damage or inferiority in meat and poultry. The change follows a petition by Kraft Foods Global Inc., which wants to use the substances to help inhibit the growth of bacteria. After consideration, the FSIS said it has determined that sodium benzoate, sodium propionate and benzoic acid, under the conditions proposed in the petitions, are both safe and suitable for use as antimicrobial agents in certain ready-to-eat meat and poultry products. Unbelievable, you couldn't make it up, only in the Asylum. There are other ways that factory farmers make animals grow faster besides giving them antibiotics and hormones. An asthma-like drug named ractopamine is used in 45% of United States pigs according to Bacon Bits, the Canadian pork industry newsletter. It's also used in 30% of ration-fed cattle and some turkeys, and that individuals with cardiovascular disease should exercise special caution to avoid exposure. Not for use in humans. Keep out of reach of children and recommends protective clothing, gloves, eyewear and masks. Data from the European Food Safety Authority indicates that ractopamine causes elevated heart rates and heart-pounding sensations in humans. Rats fed ractopamine developed a constellation of birth defects like cleft palate, protruding tongue, short limbs, missing digits, open eyelids and an enlarged heart. Cardiac stimulating drugs like ractopamine causes stress and hyperactivity in animals, and they are not appropriate because of the potential hazard for human and animal health, wrote researchers. Let's carry on using them then and ensure that the general public is consuming this, but don't tell them. Nitrites and nitrates are added to meat during the processing period, and this inhibits the growth of bacteria and enhances colors. Nitrites are used for pork, beef and poultry to enhance color, particularly ham and bacon to give it a pinker color. When nitrites combine with certain amino acids, N-nitroso compounds or nitrosamines are formed, and these have been shown to be carcinogenic, cancer-causing. Exposure to nitrites and nitrates is through food we consume and also through polluted drinking water. A World Cancer Research Fund and the American Institute for Cancer Research in 2007 found that the evidence for an association between red and processed meat consumption and colorectal cancer was convincing. The report also concluded that milk probably decreases the risk of colorectal cancer, but diets high in calcium probably increase the risk of prostate cancer. The study of more than 190,000 people found that people who ate the most red meat and pork were 50% more likely to develop pancreatic cancer. Antibiotics are part of the diet of United States livestock to make them grow faster and prevent disease outbreaks in cramped conditions. The USDA's Food Safety Inspection Service found dangerous antibiotic levels in animals including penicillin, neomycin and sulfur and cipro drugs, many from repeat violators. Unlike bacteria, which antibiotics are supposed to kill, no amount of cooking will destroy drug residues. Sulfites are used as preservatives in food to maintain color and prolong shelf life. A report was submitted to the FDA in 1985, concluding that sulfites could pose a hazard of unpredictable severity to asthmatics and others who are sensitive to them. Sulfites can not only trigger asthma but other anaphylactic-type reactions. In Europe, sulfite derivatives may be listed as E220, E221, E222, E223, E224, E225, E226, E227, E228, or potassium bisulfite, metabisulfite, sodium bisulfite, dithanite, metabisulfite, sulfite, sulfur dioxide, sulfiting agents, sulfurous acid. Keeping meat at healthy temperatures is also a challenge. The surface temperature of displayed meat is often much higher than the thermometer of the display case due to UV radiation from the lighting in the display case, which penetrates the meat packaging and heats the surface just as the sun can cause sunburn on a cold day. Studies have found that the internal temperature of meat from display cases does exceed 50 degrees Celsius, which is more than 10 degrees higher than the recommended temperatures. The meat consequently decomposes quickly, so the industry invested in modified atmospheric packaging which utilizes carbon monoxide gas to extend shelf life. With low oxygen, the carbon monoxide reacts with myoglobin and gives the meat a bright red color. Carbon monoxide obviously can be harmful when inhaled in large quantities because it sticks to hemoglobin, a molecule in the blood that usually carries oxygen. Exposure to higher levels of carbon monoxide means that the gas takes the place of oxygen in the bloodstream and creates the problem. The meat industry insists that its meat is not harmful to human health when ingested via modified atmospheric packaging. Of course it's not. A lab tech named Marissa Cattle, who analyses meat samples for a health and safety agency, says that we commonly test for a bacteria named C. perfringens, and about half of the fresh meat products that come in are positive despite them being within the expiration period. 100% of these cases come from packagers who adopted atmospheric packaging methods such as the use of carbon monoxide gas. Heavy metals in United States meat comes from the USDA Office of the Inspector General. It found high residues of copper, arsenic and other heavy metals and veterinary drugs in beef released for public consumption. Animals with violative levels of metals, anti-parasite vaccines and medicines were knowingly released into the human food supply by inspectors, says its report. In 2011, the presence of arsenic in food made for poultry made headlines when a government study found inorganic arsenic in the livers of chickens treated with arsenic-laced feed. Arsenic is a carcinogen. The FDA still allows arsenic in poultry feed for weight gain and feed efficiency to control parasites and to improve pigmentation. Really? It seems that the FDA in the United States deems many food ingredients to be safe when in fact they are far from safe. I do not believe that the FDA is looking out for US citizens' best interests. Meat glue is produced by a Japanese company named Ajinomoto and belongs to a family of clotting enzymes. It is a thrombin, which is a coagulant protein which together with a fibrous protein named fibrin is developed to stick together different pieces of meat. The European Parliament once voted to ban bovine and porcine thrombin, but 1 year later all but one of the European nations voted in favor of using them. Joining the United States, Canada and Australia, bacteria is rife in United States-grown meat, including antibiotic-resistant bacteria known as superbugs. Almost half of chicken, beef, pork and turkey tested from United States grocery stores contained staph bacteria in 2011. In 2013, pork tested positive for MRSA and for other kinds of resistant bacteria. 2 serious strains of antibiotic-resistant Salmonella forced recalls of turkey products. These strains were so deadly that officials warned that meat should be disposed of in sealed garbage cans. The high concentrations of synthetic chemicals in meat are far from naturally occurring, and they react with other compounds in your body and potentially form cancer-causing cells. Antioxidants prevent this process, and thankfully these can be found in both vegetables and fruit. From the bizarre to the insane, Elvira Savino of the Italian Conservative Forza Party believes that parents who feed their children a plant-based diet should be imprisoned. Millions of parents around the world rightly don't believe in feeding their offspring such animal products from factory farms where conscious animals are poisoned, full of antibiotics, hormones and even genetically modified food. To some, Eating meat is barbaric, especially given the degradation of our rainforests and the way in which the animals are treated. His draft bill stated that a vegan diet, meat and dairy-free, is devoid of essential elements for children's healthy and balanced growth. Cuckoo. Savino's potential law would jail a parent for up to 4 years if a child develops a medical issue that could be linked to eating a vegan diet. According to humantarafree.com, most parents feeding their children a vegan or vegetarian diet are faring better than about 80% of the population. When you consider the sheer amount of refined sugar, processed carbohydrates, artificial colors, fake dyes, endocrine-altering hormones, pesticides used on genetically modified crops and more than 100 different additives in the average American diet, before even accounting for the consumption of meat, Savino's potential bill is misinformed. According to AgFund News, meat production is the largest segment of United States agriculture. It has the retail equivalent value of $85 billion. 1/3 of the world's 14 billion hectares of cultivated land is used to grow 1 billion tons of feed. Even more astounding is that 70% of all agricultural land is dedicated to raising livestock. According to a study in 2005, scientists learned that blood taken from vegans is 8 times more effective at killing cancer cells than blood taken from those following a standard American diet. My mother was a vegan, which meant that she ate no meat or fish or dairy products. A series of experiments unearthed these findings because test subjects were assigned opposing diets which they had to maintain for over a year. After blood tests samples were taken, the samples were pitted against cancer cells in a petri dish. The goal of the test was to show which diet resulted in having blood that was more effective at suppressing cancer growth of the prostate. The test showed that blood belonging to the vegans had nearly 8 times the stopping power when it came to cancerous cell growth. Participants on the vegan diet also undertook stress management groups as well as yoga to show how lifestyle choice affects your health and cancer. After 14 days, the power of eating just plants was shown by a dramatic strengthening of cancer defense as well as partaking in light exercise of walking between 30 to 60 minutes per day. Samples of blood were taken from women with breast cancer and the women were asked to spend 14 days on a plant-based diet and exercise moderately. The results showed that exercise helps to suppress cancer growth and a plant-based diet alone has twice as much power to kill cancerous cells. In the 1950s, biochemist Dr. Johanna Budwig found that the right combination of foods has therapeutic properties in preventing, treating and curing cancer. While researching the pathogenesis of disease and illness in Germany, she observed that quark, a soft cheese, contained the same sulfhydryl groups found in cancer treatment drugs. These groups are cysteine and methanoamino acids. 4. She then established that essential polyunsaturated fatty acids, referred to as PUFAs, are major components of cellular membranes. 4. Without the properly functioning cellular membrane, cells lose the ability to perform vital life processes such as respiration and the ability to form new cells. She found that a combination of quark or cottage cheese and flaxseed oil working together supplied energy to a human body's cells and acted like electrical battery jumper cables. In her research, her cancer patients had improved oxygen supply to their body's cells and found relief from all forms of cancer including those of the gastrointestinal tract, brain, breast and skin cancers. Her protocol included drinking only pure water, receiving adequate amounts of sunshine to stimulate healing in the mind and body, eliminate all processed food from a diet, do not consume sugar, meat or animal fat, prepare only fresh and organic fruits and vegetables, never use leftovers, avoid all drugs and supplements, Grind flax seeds fresh and consume within 15 minutes. Mix quark or cottage cheese and blend until no visible oil remains floating, and do not mix in added ingredients until final cheese mixture results. If suffering from cancer, she recommended consuming 1 tablespoon per day of flaxseed oil be taken to prevent further cancer. If so many countries such as Bulgaria, Russia and Switzerland make their farming practices organically based, then you need to ask yourself what the real reason is that the United States continue to spray billions of dollars worth of chemicals onto their crops every year, just to eliminate pests. In 2008, the UN Conference of Trade and Development supported organics, said that agriculture can be more conducive to food security in Africa than most conventional production systems and is more sustainable. Kathleen Collins, a cancer cell specialist at UC Berkeley, spoke on video about methyl iodide and the fact that it causes damage to DNA. Methyl iodide is sprayed on crops in some areas and is also used in prescription medicine. This chemical can depress the central nervous system, irritate the lungs, and affect the kidneys. Long-term exposure to methyl iodide by inhalation may affect the central nervous system and cause skin burns. Methyl iodide causes late-term miscarriages, contaminates groundwater, and is so reliably carcinogenic that it's used to create cancer cells in laboratories. It is included in California's Proposition 65 list of chemicals known to cause cancer. The pesticide poses the most direct risks to farm workers and neighboring communities because of the large quantities that would be applied to fields and its tendency to drift off-site through the air. Studies have shown that switching to organic produce reduces the accumulation of pesticides within the body. Researchers from RMIT University published in the journal Environmental Research said that an organic diet for just 1 week significantly reduces pesticide exposure in adults by 90%. Unfortunately, big biotech companies like Monsanto hold an extraordinary amount of power over governments such as the United States. Methyl iodide is used for spraying fields of strawberries at rates of 110 pounds per acre and is also registered for use on tomatoes, peppers, nurseries and on soil prior to replanting orchards and vineyards.